you're giving up momentum. You're giving up breakaways constantly and odd man rushes constantly. And as the power play is coming to an end, the puck goes over Mason Lohrei's stick. Where have you heard that before? Right? Same thing as the Toronto game with Matthew Nyes. And Zach Benson just pickpockets Lohrei, goes in all alone on a breakaway, ties the game 2-2. Now, I believe the clock had just expired on the Bruins power play, so it was not a shorthanded goal, but it was effectively a shorthanded goal. 2-2, and to make matters worse, Mason Lohrei cross-checks Benson in the back into the post, nearly, out of frustration because, you lose the puck battle, and you give up a goal. And guess what happens? Buffalo goes to the power play. So you go from a situation where you're up 2-1 in the third period, and you're on the power play, and now it's 3-2 Sabres. You have a chance to go up 3-1 with an insurance marker, and now it's 3-2 Sabres. Talk about a boneheaded play. Boneheaded play. I will give Mason Lohrei credit. He's been much better this year than last year. Last year, he was a league worst -43, plus minus. Last time I checked this year, which was like a week and a half ago, he was a +11 or something like that. So he has had a much better year than last. There's no doubt about it. And I think generally speaking, he's been a good player for Boston. But man, there are some moments where you just shake your head with him and say, Mason, what are you doing? But I guess that's to be expected sometimes with offensive minded players. But this wasn't even a situation where he was being offensive minded. He just was lackadaisical with the forechecker on him. So it's not even one of those situations where he was trying to join the rush and got caught up ice. No, but anyway, I think you're going to have some growing pains with Lohrei for however long he's a Boston Bruin. I just think that's the nature of how he plays. He's going to have some moments of what the F was that. Fortunately for the Bruins, because it was not looking good here, you're down 3-2 with about 14 minutes to go in the game, and what was kind of a quiet arena in Buffalo is now just, raising the roof. And I didn't love Boston's game in the third period. Honestly, Buffalo just has more speed and skill than the Bruins. That's pretty evident. They play a prettier style of hockey, but in the third period, I really thought they took it to the Bruins. However, the second line, who else but the second line for the Boston Bruins, Zacha, Middlestad, and Arvidsson, they go down the ice after Boston was hemmed in their zone for a couple of minutes, it felt like. And Pavel Zacha protects the puck, holds on to it, finds Jonathan Aspro, who fires a one-timer, goes wide of the net, jumps out in front. Former Sabre Casey Middlestad gets his 14th goal of the year, and it's a 3-3 game. So 3-3 game with like whatever it was, 6-7 minutes to go, or maybe 5 and change, and you just think to yourself, that's a huge goal for Casey Middlestad, because the Bruins were on the verge of losing in regulation for the second consecutive game, and Middlestad ties it relatively late, the final third of the third period, and now all you got to do is just hang on for at least 1 point, get this game to overtime, get at least 1 point. Bruins do one better, they get 2. Pavel Zacha scores in overtime for the Boston Bruins, his 24th goal of the year on Pasternak's 61st assist and Charlie McAvoy's 45th assist of the season. Pasternak has an 11-game point streak. He had a goal and a couple of assists in this one. 3-point game for Pasternak. He now has 18 points in his last 11 games, if my math is correct. Pavel Zacha continues to have a really strong year for Boston. A little bit more on him in just a second. But first and foremost, let us go to Pavel Zacha, who had the game-winning goal in Buffalo.
The resilience you guys showed tonight, what do you think that says about the team at this point in the season?
Yeah, we know how important this game was, and I think we just kept coming the whole game. Especially in the third period, we just never give up and kind of came back in the game. And we know what we have in this locker room, the resilience. We kind of went through this, must-win games for so many games now. So I'm happy that we won, came back, and kind of can build on this game more.
The script was getting flipped there earlier in the third period. Emotionally, what are you going through there, and what do you have to do to kind of stop from panicking?
I think that's something that we've been kind of working on, in these situations, just kind of stick to the system, being a little bit more simple, and it's something that when we do that, we win games, and not just try one or two guys trying to score a goal, go line after line, kind of build on that, and that's how we win these games this year.
So it was a big win for the Bruins. It was a huge 2 points for Boston, a massive 2 points for Boston. Okay. Before we get to the updated standings and just what those 2 points meant for the Bruins, I want to spend a moment or two here on Pavel Zacha. Pavel Zacha has been outstanding for the Bruins, really, since they traded for him for Eric Haula. I mean, there's been some stretches where Zacha is, left a little bit to be desired, but by and large, he's just been a 3-zone player. Has played on both special teams units for the Bruins. He's a reliable guy. He's a reliable player. He doesn't jump off the page. He's never gonna hit 90 to 100 points, but he's just a strong player. He's a strong player for any team, a contender, a non-playoff team, a playoff team, anybody. Any team will be happy to have a Pavel Zacha. And, he's up for a contract after next season. He is. He's turning 30 years old. I want to say next summer when his contract is up. He'll be turning 30 years old. Listen, we talked about James Higgins for a little bit. Pavel Zacha, because he can play wing and center, I think you have to surround this next wave of young Bruins players like a James Higgins, like a Fraser Minton, a Marat Husnudinov, maybe in a year or two, Dean Letourneau or Will Zellers, right? Like you have to surround these guys with experienced veterans too, right? You can't just have a team full of youth. So I think Pavel Zacha is a guy that the Bruins should re-sign. And Zacha's career high in points and points per game came back in the 23-24 season for the Bruins, which was their centennial season, where he had 59 points in 78 games and scored 0.76 points per game. That was while playing primarily with David Pastrnak at 5-on-5. He is on pace to eclipse both of those career highs. This year, he's on pace for 62 points in 79 games, which is 0.78 points per game. And he's doing so while primarily playing with Casey Middlestad and Victor Arvidsson at 5-on-5. So Zacha has been a huge player for the Bruins. That entire second line for the Bruins has been massive for them. Obviously, David Pastrnak leads the way offensively for the Bruins. He always has. He always will as long as he's around. But where would this Bruins team be without the second line this year? They wouldn't be a playoff team, that's for damn sure. So, as I said, it was a huge win for the Bruins. They're now 40-24-8. So they have 40 wins in the year now. 88 points and a 611 point percentage. Right now, they are wild card 1. They are 3 points up on the Senators, who are wild card 2. They're 3 points up on the Islanders, who are outside the playoff picture. They're 4 points up on Detroit, who are outside the playoff picture. It wasn't too long ago. It was Saturday night when the Bruins entered Detroit with the same record, same points, same everything outside of regulation wins, where the Bruins had the edge. And here we are now, less than a week later, and the Bruins got the win in that game, and they are now 4 points up on Detroit. So if the Bruins lost that game against the Red Wings, and then you lose against, the Maple Leafs, maybe it's the Bruins who are now 3-4 points outside the playoff picture, but they took care of business against Detroit. They stumbled against Toronto, but they found a way against Buffalo. And the Bruins are also tied with the Canadiens for third in the Atlantic on points, but Montreal has 2 games in hand, so they have a higher points percentage. So the Bruins still could theoretically finish in the top 3 in the Atlantic, but really feels like it's going to be a wild card spot for them if they do make the playoffs. And I say if they make the playoffs because the road ahead is a gauntlet. They got through Buffalo on Wednesday, and that's great. But now they have Minnesota on Saturday, 5 p.m. at TD Garden. Then they turn around and go to Columbus for 5 o'clock on Sunday to play the Blue Jackets, who have been one of, if not the best team in the NHL over the last couple of months since their coaching change. Then you host Dallas on Tuesday. Then you have to go play Florida and Tampa Bay. Then you have Philly, which they've been competitive this year. But then you have Carolina, Tampa Bay, Columbus again, and then New Jersey to end the year. So of the remaining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, I mean, 8 of them, I don't care where Florida is in the standings. They're a tough game. Outside of Philly and New Jersey, those are really difficult games. And that's no disrespect to Philly and New Jersey. They're capable of beating the Bruins on any given night if Boston doesn't play their game. The Bruins are not a team that, isn't capable of losing to anybody. The Bruins lose to everybody on any given night if they don't play well enough. So, really tough schedule for the Bruins down the stretch. If they go at least 500, they should be a playoff team. Go at least 500, you should be a playoff team. Obviously, you might want to go for a bit of a higher bar than that. But that's the road ahead for the Bruins. So we'll see what happens over the weekend. But if the Bruins can find a way to get a 1, if not 2 wins on Saturday, Sunday, I think their playoff chances go very, very high. I think right now, as we record this episode, they have like a 75% chance of making the playoffs. If you can win a couple of games this weekend or at least get 3 out of 4 points, it's going to go a long way. You can pretty much start to really think about if you want to get playoff tickets or not at that point. If you can get 4 points this weekend, Bruins might start to become more of a playoff lock. But if they lose, then, they're anything but.